Hi guys, and welcome back to the Mission Sweden vlog. I am so glad that you're joining us again this week, and if it's your first time, an extra special welcome. How do you share the gospel in a culture of individuals? Living in Sweden can sometimes feel like you're living on a London tube train. I mean, you see lots of people around you, and if you absolutely have to, you might consider sitting next to someone, but you never start a conversation. You just don't do that. How can you share the gospel of Jesus? How can you live for Jesus in a culture where even saying hello is considered taboo? My name's Ben, and I moved to Sweden with my family in 2020. Our dream is to plant a gospel-centered church in the heart of Gothenburg. And here on the Mission Sweden vlog, our goal is to help you think about Sweden through the lens of the gospel. Our family recently got back from a little holiday. We rented a little cabin isolated in the middle of the woods. It was an awesome time. We laid on our back, we looked up at the stars, we played with our little dog Sherlock, our new dog, a cute little Labradoodle with tons of energy. The boys shot air rifles, the younger ones just ran around, and we even found this great little place where there was a kind of a roller coaster thing that we could just go on, and the cool thing about that was there were no queues, which is even more amazing. So we had a wonderful time. And now here in Sweden, actually, the weather has turned. It was just a couple of weeks ago it was snowing, and now we have the sun out, and it feels like summer is beginning to happen, and it's really, really exciting. And I'm looking forward to taking my first jump in a lake sometime soon. And I'll probably bring you with me on that. Well, anyway, we'll see. So, without further ado, let's get on with the video. I'm currently in the position of having to self-learn Swedish from home, and one of the best resources that I've found is a YouTube channel called Sfe Peter. Link in the description below if you are interested in learning some Swedish for yourself. And I can't recommend it enough. He is awesome. His videos are concise and helpful. It's all in Swedish though, so you have to have a bit of Swedish before you can dive in there. So if you're trying to learn Swedish for yourself and you're starting to move beyond simple phrases and hi there and hellos, and you're starting to think about grammar, get on his channel now, have a go. Really do, it's great. In one of his latest videos, he talks about hur är svenska? Or in English you might say, what are Swedes like? It's about 20 minutes long, and it's a Swedish man explaining his own culture, simply and clearly for people who are wanting to fit in and learn the language and integrate. And I'm probably going to end up making a few videos on the things that he talks about. If you're Swedish, go and watch it and let me know in the comments what you think of it, whether it is a good summary of what you think Swedish culture is. So I'll leave a link to this specific video in the description as well. But the specific part of the video I want to talk about today is this. Svenskar är privat människor, which means Swedes are private people, right? You may have picked that up if you've been watching a few of my blogs already. The question is, how do Swedes, according to Peter at SFE, relate to each other? And how does the Christian life bring a challenge to that? In his video, Peter says that Swedes really just want to be left to themselves. They make their own decisions. They look after themselves. They don't need other people. They are no better or worse than other people. They keep their work and their private lives carefully compartmentalized. But of all the things he said, what really resonated with me, with what I'm thinking through at the moment, was a diagram about how Swedes think about their human relationships. See, there are basically three categories that Swedes have, according to Peter. Family, friends, and acquaintances. First, family. Now, when I think of family, I think of my wife, my kids, my aunts, my uncles, my grandparents, and the kind of wider family. But the way Peter describes it is more smaller. So it's the people that live in your household. So it's you, your partner, and your children, if you have any. And that is your family, your most fundamental group that you build everything else around. So it's quite a small view of family. Then comes, very tightly wrapped around the family, is the friends zone. These are the few people that you might welcome into your home, the ones who you would invite around for dinner, meet for coffee regularly, have conversations with. the ones that you go to see a hockey game with. And if you absolutely can't get by without any help, these are the few people that you can call on if absolutely necessary. Because, Swedish value, I must take care of myself. So you have family, then you have close friends, and then you have this big gap, and then you have acquaintances. It's a circle that's kept safely at a distance out there somewhere with a protective wall around it. And these are the people that you might see every day. Your neighbours, your work colleagues, the people that you bump into in the supermarket. Those kind of people. The people that you would say hi there and hello. You might have a little bit of a chit chat about the weather. But the relationship doesn't go any further than that. You wouldn't invite them into your house for a coffee. You keep them out there because you want to keep this group small. You keep them at a safe but polite distance. So often when people visit Sweden for short periods of time, they think they can see Swedes as being incredibly welcoming because Swedes are generally polite and they will smile and they will talk to you and they'll give you directions if you need help. But it's a real challenge to go from acquaintance to friend. That's a completely different thing. I think I mentioned it in a previous video. For the average refugee moving to Sweden, coming to Sweden, it takes 7 years before they have a meaningful conversation with a Swede beyond the acquaintance level. 7 years. And even more than that, 10% of people living in Sweden don't have any close friends at all. So they may have family or they may live alone. 50% of the households in Sweden are single occupancy households. Going from acquaintance to friend is a big deal, and it takes a long time. So how do we respond to this with the gospel in mind and with Christian discipleship in our thinking? I don't know whether it's because I'm a Yorkshireman or because I'm a Christian or an evangelist or a pastor. The biggest difference I've been thinking about as I ponder on this is this kind of huge gap between friends and acquaintances, and I guess I don't see that as being such a huge gap. In my mind, all my acquaintances are potential friends. So there's this kind of line, I suppose. Yes, they may be out there, but there's like arrows pointing inwards on the diagram for me. And like I said, that could be because I'm a Yorkshireman, because it's not odd to kind of talk to a stranger at the bus stop or on the bus. It's not just a politeness; it's a genuine warmth, I think. But also, I think as a Christian, I think that probably adds to it a great deal. Is we're called to go into all the world, to preach the gospel, to proclaim the good news to everyone, so that they might hear about Jesus. In Acts chapter 17, when Paul is speaking in Athens, there's just a little section in his sermon which has been really inspirational to me in my thinking, my evangelism. Let me grab a Bible. That's a Swedish Bible. That's not going to help you. This one might do, though. Paul in Athens. Okay, here we go. Let me read these verses. In verse 24 of chapter 17. The God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth, and does not live in temples built by human hands, and is not served by human hands as if he needs anything, because he himself gives all men life and breath and everything else, and from one man he made every nation, that they should inhabit the whole earth. And this is it. And he determined the times set for them and the exact places where they should live. God did this so that men would seek him and perhaps reach out and find him, even though he's not far from each one of us. Did you get that? God sets the boundaries of how long we'll live, when we'll live in history, and where we will live. That means as a Christian, I don't live in this neighborhood because it's cheap. I don't live in this neighborhood because I can afford the housing. I don't live in this neighborhood because it's near a school that I like. I don't live in a neighborhood because it's near work or because there's easy commuter distance to get to work. I live in this neighborhood ultimately because God has ordained that I would live here so that people might reach out and perhaps find him. And that means I am here on God's order as a witness to the people around me, to everyone I meet. And that changes the way I think about where I live and how I interact with people around me. Because I believe where I live is not an accident. It's ordained by God for a purpose at this time. And that's true for all of you. If you're a believer on a certain street at a certain time, God has placed you there so that you will be a witness to your neighbours. If you go at a regular time to the same shop over and over and over again and you bump into the same people, God has ordained that you would be a witness to those people. God has ordained that they would live next to me so that I would be a witness to them. This changes the way we think. Another thing to bear in mind is with all this kind of this idea that Swedes don't naturally easily make friends with others, is this. That when Emily and I first came to Sweden, I think we've said to you before, we had open at home, open Bible as our motto for how we wanted to do ministry. And we were genuinely concerned, how will people even accept our invitations? And here we are, we're inviting them to our home. You want them to come to our home whenever will they come? In England, I know that works. In Sweden, where they kind of have these barriers around acquaintances and these big things that kind of stop people from becoming close friends, will they even show up? And I'm really pleased to say that in Sweden I've noticed that people are genuinely open to invitation. So, for example, within the first months of moving into our previous home, we had a housewarming. And I remember knocking on all the neighbours' doors, and one guy specifically said, "Oh, that's not very Swedish." But they all came. Every single one of them came. And it was just really, really, really encouraging. We had people sat around our table eating scones with clotted cream and jam and talking with one another in a way that they've never spoken to each other before. Even though they've lived on the same street for 30 years. They came. Then COVID got in the way and we couldn't do things in our house anymore. We were able to do stuff outside, so we ran an open garden. And we invited people to come along to that. We were just amazed that we had, on some evenings, as many as 28 people come to eat a meal, to spend time together, to listen to the Bible being taught. 28 Christians and non-Christians. How awesome is that? So we found that Swedes do come if you invite them. So my view is, I think, of Swedish culture isn't just that they have these great big barriers up. So I think Swedish people want to have relationships with one another. Swedish people are open to make friendships. They're just not so ready to do the inviting. But if you're willing to step out and do the inviting, I believe they'll come. So if you're a Swedish person and you're thinking, I want to be a witness for Jesus in this kind of environment, well, let me encourage you to say, even though it goes against every cultural grain in your body to be open and to invite people so readily to your home, please be encouraged that if you're willing to step out and do that, I believe, from my experience, that people will come. God has placed you where you are, whether it's a tiny Swedish village in the middle of nowhere, or whether it's in the heart of Stockholm. God has placed you where you are so that you can be a witness to the people around you. Pray for your neighbours. Pray for the people you meet. Pray intentionally that the Lord would give you opportunities to talk about the gospel. The reality is, I think we have those opportunities all the time, but our eyes aren't open to them. So if you pray that the Lord would give you those opportunities, you're more likely to have your eyes opened. In a COVID world, it's really challenging, I get that. But let's use this time to think through these things, to pray through these things, so that when the COVID stuff lifts, we're just ready to go out and invite everyone into our homes and tell them about Jesus. Maybe that's a crazy dream, but that's what Emily and I want for our home. So I pray that this video might inspire some of you to do the same. Thank you guys for listening to this video. I look forward to doing this again in the next week or two. If you found this content interesting, please do like, comment and subscribe. I'd love to hear your opinions. Have you tried this sort of stuff before? How have you found it? What do you think about it? Does it make you feel uncomfortable? Let me know. Just write down below. And please click the like button. It really helps in spreading the word about what we're doing here in Mission Sweden. So thank you, and hej då!